Arab millionaire disguises as trash collector to test his son's fiancée, and what she says leaves him speechless. The sun reflected off the windows of the skyscraper housing the headquarters of Thompson Enterprises. On the top floor, Richard Thompson, a 60-year-old man with a face weathered by time and experience, gazed out at the city of New York spread before him. His gaze, however, was not on the horizon, but on a photograph he held in his hands, the image of his only son, Andrew, smiling next to a stunningly beautiful young woman. Emily Carter, the woman in the photograph, was the source of the concern furrowing Richard's brow. At 25, Emily was a digital influencer with millions of followers on social media. Her relationship with Andrew had been a media whirlwind from the start, and now, barely 6 months after meeting, the couple had announced their engagement. A knock on the door interrupted Richard's thoughts. "Come in," he said in a deep voice. Andrew entered the office, his face lit up by a smile Richard hadn't seen in years. "Dad, you wanted to see me?" Richard nodded, motioning for his son to take a seat. "Andrew, you know I've always respected your decisions, but I must express my concern about your engagement to Emily." Andrew's smile faded. "Dad, we've talked about this. I love Emily and she loves me. Why can't you accept that?" Richard sighed, carefully choosing his words. "Son, I've seen a lot in this life. I've built an empire from nothing, and I've learned to recognize those who only seek to benefit from our success. I fear Emily might be one of those people." Andrew stood up, his face flushed with indignation. "I can't believe you're still thinking like this. Emily isn't like the other women I've known. She loves me for who I am, not for what I have." "Are you sure about that?" Richard asked calmly. "Have you considered that her sudden interest in you might be related to our fortune?" "Enough!" exclaimed Andrew. "I won't allow you to talk about the woman I love like that. Emily is genuine, caring, and an internet celebrity who lives off appearances," interrupted Richard. "Son, I'm just asking you to be cautious, to open your eyes and see beyond her beauty and charm." Andrew shook his head, heading towards the door. "I'm sorry, Dad, but you're wrong this time. I'm going to marry Emily with or without your blessing." As the door closed behind Andrew, Richard was left alone with his thoughts. He knew he couldn't allow his son to make a mistake that could cost him not only his fortune but also his happiness. At that moment, he made a decision. He would uncover the truth about Emily Carter, no matter what it took. That same afternoon, Richard summoned a secret meeting with his head of security. "Henry, I need you to thoroughly investigate Emily Carter," Richard ordered. "I want to know everything. Her past, her family, her finances, her previous relationships. Leave no stone unturned." Henry nodded seriously. "It will be done, sir. But may I ask why you don't simply hire a private investigator?" Richard stood up and walked to the window, his silhouette outlined against the New York sunset. "Because this requires a more personal approach. I'm going to observe her myself. Henry III, need to see how she behaves when she thinks no one is watching her." "What do you have in mind, sir?" asked Henry, intrigued. Richard turned to him, a spark of determination in his eyes. "I'm going to disguise myself. I'll become someone invisible, someone Emily wouldn't give a second glance. A janitor, perhaps." Henry looked surprised. "Sir, with all due respect, are you sure that's a good idea? It could be dangerous." "It's a risk I'm willing to take for my son," Richard replied firmly. "Prepare everything necessary, simple clothes, a fake beard, a janitor's uniform, and make sure that no one, absolutely no one, finds out about this." As Henry withdrew to carry out the orders, Richard turned his gaze back to the city. Somewhere, out there, Emily Carter was living her life without knowing that she would soon be put to the test. Richard knew that what he was about to do was risky, but he was determined to protect his son and his legacy, no matter the cost. What Richard couldn't imagine was that his actions would trigger a series of events that would shake the foundations of his family and reveal long-buried secrets. The fate of the Thompsons was about to change forever, and it would all begin with a simple janitor's disguise. The sun had barely begun to rise over the New York skyline when Richard Thompson looked in, the mirror, barely recognizing himself. The man staring back at him wasn't the powerful magnate everyone knew, but a humble worker with his face, covered by an unkempt beard, and his body wrapped in a worn janitor's uniform, Henry, his head of security, watched with a mixture of amazement and concern. "Sir, I must insist once again that you reconsider this. It's too risky." Richard adjusted the cap on his head and turned to Henry. "I appreciate your concern, old friend, but my decision is made. I need to see for myself who Emily Carter really is." With a sigh of resignation, Henry handed Richard a small device. "This is a tracker and a panic button. If anything goes wrong, press it and I'll be there in minutes." Richard nodded, tucking the device into his pocket. "Thank you, Henry. Now tell me what you found out about Emily's plans for today." "According to our sources, sir, Emily has a lunch reservation at the Golden Pearl restaurant. It's one of the most exclusive places in the city." "Perfect," murmured Richard. "It's time to test the true nature of my future daughter-in-law." Meanwhile, in a luxurious penthouse in downtown New York, Emily Carter was preparing for her day. In front of a full-length mirror, she adjusted a designer dress that accentuated every curve of her body. Her face, perfectly made up, didn't show a single imperfection. "How do I look?" she asked, turning to a man sitting on the bed, scrolling on his phone. The man, athletic-looking with perfectly styled hair, looked up. "Like a millionaire, darling, just as it should be." Emily smiled, but there was a glint of something else in her eyes. "Soon, Jake, soon we'll be more than millionaires. We'll be part of the most powerful family in New York." Jake stood up and approached her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Are you sure Andrew doesn't suspect anything?" "Of course not," Emily replied with a laugh. "That fool is completely in love. It's his father I'm worried about. Richard Thompson is not an easy man to fool." "That's why you need to be extra careful," warned Jake. "Remember, we're so close to achieving it, we can't afford any mistakes now." Emily nodded, her expression turning serious for a moment. "I know I've worked too hard to get this far. Nothing and no one will stand in my way." With a final glance in the mirror, Emily grabbed her designer purse and headed for the door. "Wish me luck. I have lunch with the friends who will help cement my image as the future Mrs. Thompson." As Emily headed to the restaurant in her luxurious car, Richard was already in position, blending in with the cleaning staff of the Golden Pearl. His heart was beating hard, aware that he was about to discover a truth that could change his family's fate. The restaurant was the epitome of luxury, with crystal chandeliers, silk tablecloths, and gold cutlery. Richard moved between the tables, collecting plates and cleaning discreetly, always alert to the entrance. Finally, Emily made her appearance, accompanied by a group of equally elegant women. Richard held his breath as he saw her, impressed, despite himself, by her beauty and poise. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, capturing the attention of everyone present. With calculated movements, Richard approached Emily's table, keeping his head down as he collected the empty plates. He sharpened his ears, catching fragments of the conversation. "Oh, Emily, I can't believe you're going to marry Andrew Thompson," said one of the women. "You're so lucky," Emily laughed, a melodious sound that hid a darker tone that only Richard seemed to notice. "Fortune favors the bold, darling. And believe me, I've been very bold." "What about his father?" asked another. "I've heard that Richard Thompson is a tough nut to crack." For a moment, Richard saw a flash of something dangerous in Emily's eyes. "Richard Thompson is a man of the past. He'll soon learn that the future belongs to me, I mean to Andrew and me." It was at that moment, as Richard bent down to pick up a fallen glass, that it happened. His cap slipped slightly, revealing his face for an instant. Emily's eyes met his, and for a second, Richard feared he had been discovered, but what followed was even worse than discovery. "You trash!" Emily spat, her voice filled with contempt. "How dare you dirty our table with your presence? Don't you know who I am?" Richard, playing his role, lowered his head in submission. "I'm sorry, miss. I was just doing my job." "Your job is to stay out of my sight," Emily responded cruelly. "People like you shouldn't even breathe the same air as us. Now get out of here before I have you fired." Emily's friends laughed, clearly amused by the humiliation of the supposed janitor. Richard retreated, his heart heavy, not from the humiliation, but from the revelation of Emily's true character. As he walked away, he could hear Emily continue, As I was saying, girls, soon I'll be Mrs. Thompson, and things like this," she made a dismissive gesture towards Richard, "will be a thing of the past." Richard retreated to the kitchen, his mind spinning. He had seen enough. The woman his son loved, the woman who was about to enter his family, was a monster of greed and cruelty. But as he processed this painful truth, Richard didn't realize that he wasn't the only one hiding secrets. At a nearby table, a well-dressed man observed the scene with interest. This man, whose name was Frank, was more than just a diner. He was the vice president of Thompson Enterprises, and although Richard didn't know it, he had his own plans for the company's future. Frank discreetly took out his phone and sent a message. "Phase 1 is underway, the old fox has taken the bait." Meanwhile, Emily, recovered from her outburst, continued her chat as if nothing had happened. But there was a new tension in her shoulders, a sharpness in her gaze that suggested that maybe, just maybe, she had recognized something familiar in the eyes of that humble janitor. The game had barely begun, and none of the players were. Aware of all the pieces on the board, Richard had come seeking the truth. But what he had discovered was only the tip of the iceberg of a much larger plot. The sun was setting over New York, tinting the sky in golden and crimson hues. When Richard Thompson returned to his mansion, he felt exhausted, not only physically from the day spent in an uncomfortable disguise, but emotionally from what he had witnessed. Emily's cruelty towards someone she considered inferior had been a devastating revelation. As he removed his disguise in the privacy of his study, the door suddenly opened. Andrew entered, his face lit up by a smile that vanished when he saw his father half undressed from his janitor disguise. "Dad, what are you doing?" asked Andrew, confused and alarmed. Richard sighed deeply. He hadn't planned for his son to discover him like this, but perhaps it was for the best. "Andrew, sit down, we need to talk." Over the next hour, Richard told his son everything he had seen and heard at the restaurant. With each word, he saw how Andrew's expression changed from disbelief to pain, and finally to silent anger. "I can't believe it," Andrew finally muttered. "There must be some mistake. Emily can't be like that." Richard put a hand on his son's shoulder. "I know it's hard to accept, but I saw her true nature with my own eyes. The woman you love, she's not who you think she is." Andrew stood up abruptly, moving away from his father's touch. "No, I refuse to believe it. Maybe she was just having a bad day. We all make mistakes." "My son," Richard said softly, "a bad day doesn't justify treating another human being with such contempt. A person's true nature is revealed in how they treat those who can't benefit them." Andrew remained silent for a long moment, his mind clearly in conflict. Finally, he spoke with a broken voice. "I need time to think. This is too much." As Andrew left the study, Richard collapsed into his armchair, the weight of the situation falling on his shoulders. He knew he had done the right thing by telling his son the truth, but seeing the pain in Andrew's eyes broke his heart. In another part of the city, Emily was having her own crisis. Sitting on the balcony of her penthouse, she stared blankly at her phone, where a photo of her and Andrew smiling together glowed on the screen. "What's wrong with you?" asked Jake, coming out onto the balcony with 2 glasses of champagne. "You should be celebrating. Soon you'll be Mrs. Thompson and you'll have everything you've always wanted." Emily took the glass but didn't drink. "Something strange happened at the restaurant today. There was a janitor. For a moment, I thought he looked like Richard Thompson." Jake laughed. "The great Richard Thompson disguised as a janitor? Come on, honey. I think the champagne has gone to your head." Emily frowned. "You don't understand." There was something in his eyes, an intelligence, an intensity that didn't fit with a simple worker. "You're being paranoid," said Jake, kissing her on the cheek. "Relax, no one suspects anything. Soon we'll have the entire Thompson empire in our hands." Emily nodded slowly, but the unease didn't leave her eyes. For the first time since she had started her plan, she felt a pang of doubt. What if Richard Thompson was smarter than she had anticipated? Meanwhile, in the offices of Thompson Enterprises, Frank worked late. His phone vibrated with an incoming message. "The old fox is on the move. We must accelerate our plans." Frank smiled to himself. The pieces were falling into place. Soon, very soon, the Thompson empire would change hands, and neither Richard nor his naive son could do anything to prevent it. What none of them knew was that another figure was moving in the shadows. A young man, similar in appearance to Andrew, watched the Thompson Tower from a distance. His name was Tyler, and he had been waiting for this moment for years. "Soon, father," he murmured to himself, "soon you'll know you, have another son, and that I've come to claim what's rightfully mine." Night fell over New York, enveloping the city in a blanket of darkness dotted with the lights of skyscrapers. At different points in the city, Richard, Andrew, Emily, Jake, Frank, and Tyler prepared for the days to come, each with their own plans and secrets. The truth, like grains of sand in the desert, began to slip through their fingers, threatening to form a storm that could bury them all. 2 weeks after the incident at the restaurant, the Thompson mansion was bustling with activity. Richard had organized a large charity event, ostensibly to raise funds for a new wing at the local hospital. However, his true purpose was much more personal. He wanted to test Emily once again, this time in an environment where compassion and generosity should be paramount. Andrew, still grappling with his father's revelations, had maintained a cautious distance from Emily over the past few days. Their phone calls had become shorter, their messages more sparse. Emily, noticing the change, was determined to use the charity event to reaffirm her position. "Tonight is crucial," she told Jake as she prepared in her penthouse. "I have to dazzle everyone, especially Richard. If I can impress him with my generosity, Andrew will fall head over heels for me." Again, Jake, adjusting his tie in front of the mirror, smiled maliciously. "Remember, love, tonight isn't just about impressing. It's also an opportunity to gather information. Many big fish will be there, and every piece of information we obtain brings us closer to our goal." Emily nodded, applying a final layer of lipstick. "Don't worry, I'll be the angel of charity everyone expects to see. No one will suspect that behind this smile hides a calculating mind." Meanwhile, at the Thompson mansion, Richard was putting the finishing touches on the main hall. He had invited not only the elite of New York, but also many of the people who would directly benefit from the charity. Humble families, hospital workers, even some of the refugees the Thompson Foundation had helped in the past. "Are you sure about this, Dad?" asked Andrew, watching as the servants placed the last flowers. "Mixing high society with, well, you know." Richard looked at his son seriously. "Son, true charity knows no class distinctions. Tonight, everyone is equal under this roof, and it's precisely that equality that will test your fiancée's heart." Andrew lowered his gaze, still divided between his love for Emily and the doubts sown by his father. "I hope you're right about this." As guests began to arrive, the contrast was evident. High-end designer dresses and suits mingled with modest clothes and grateful smiles. Richard, dressed with elegant simplicity, greeted each guest with the same warmth, whether they were a sheikh or a nurse. Emily made her grand entrance on Jake's arm, dazzling everyone with a dress that seemed made of stars. Her smile was radiant, her manners impeccable. She moved among the guests with grace, making generous donations and posing for photos with children from needy families. Richard observed her closely, noticing how her smile faltered slightly when she thought no one was looking, how she discreetly wiped her hand after touching someone from the working class. At one point in the evening, Emily found herself face to face with an older man, dressed in the hospital janitor's uniform. Her eyes widened with recognition and shock. It was the same janitor from the restaurant. "Good evening, miss," said the man with a kind smile. "What a wonderful event. It's an honor to be here." Emily for a moment seemed to lose her composure. What are you doing here?" The man, who was none other than Richard in disguise once again, responded calmly. "I was invited like everyone else. The generosity of the Thompson family knows no bounds." Before Emily could respond, Andrew approached. "Emily, I see you've met Mr. Harrison. He's one of our longest-serving and most respected employees." Emily, quickly regaining her composure, forced a smile. "Oh, of course, it's a pleasure, Mr. Harrison. Your work is invaluable." Richard Harrison nodded humbly. "Thank you, miss. We all have a role to play, don't we? From the humblest worker to the most powerful businessman." As the conversation continued, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The penetrating gaze of Harrison, the way Andrew seemed to be evaluating each of her reactions, it all felt like an elaborate test. In another corner of the hall, Frank observed the scene with interest. He noticed Emily's discomfort, Richard's calculating look, the confusion in Andrew's eyes. He smiled to himself, knowing that every crack in the Thompson family's facade was an opportunity for him. What no one at the party knew was that, outside the mansion, hidden in the shadows, Tyler watched everything through a window. His eyes moved from Richard to Andrew, studying the men who didn't know of his existence. "Enjoy your little party," he murmured to himself. "Soon, very soon, I'll make my own grand entrance." As the night progressed, the underground tensions grew. Emily struggled to maintain her facade of perfection. Andrew observed his fiancée with increasingly critical eyes, and Richard wove his web of tests and revelations. The grand hall of the Thompson mansion, full of luxury and charity, had become a stage where every smile hid a secret, every gesture had a hidden meaning, and where the future of one of New York's most powerful families hung by a thread. The sandstorm that Richard had feared was about to unleash, and no one was prepared for the truths it would bring with it, the days following. The charity event were like the calm before the storm. On the surface, everything seemed normal, but beneath the facade of normalcy, currents of suspicion and deception flowed strongly. Richard, having confirmed his suspicions about Emily during the event, decided it was time to act. He called a private meeting with Henry, his head of security and lifelong confidant. "Henry," said Richard, his voice laden with concern, "I need you to intensify surveillance on Emily. I want to know every move she makes, every call she makes, every person she meets." Henry nodded gravely. "It will be done, sir." "Should I also inform young Andrew?" Richard shook his head. "No, not yet. My son is still blinded by love. We need irrefutable evidence before presenting him with the truth." Meanwhile, Emily was having her own crisis. The appearance of the mysterious Harrison at the charity event had left her deeply disturbed. In the privacy of her penthouse, she shared her concerns with Jake. "I'm telling you, Jake, something doesn't add up," insisted Emily, pacing nervously around the room. "That man, the one posing as a janitor, I'm sure it was Richard Thompson in disguise." Jake, lounging on the sofa, let out an incredulous laugh. "Are you on about that again?" "Emily, darling, you're being paranoid. Why would the great Richard Thompson disguise himself as a janitor at his own party?" "To test me," exclaimed Emily. "Don't you see? He suspects me. We have to be more careful." Jake stood up and hugged Emily from behind, whispering in her ear, "Relax. Even if he suspects something, he has no proof. Besides, I have news that will cheer you up. I've been in touch with our associate inside Thompson Enterprises." Emily's eyes lit up with interest. "Frank, what did he say?" Jake smiled maliciously. "He says Richard is planning a major restructuring of the company. It's our perfect opportunity to position ourselves strategically. With the information Frank provides us, we'll be able to manipulate things in our favor once you're married to Andrew." Emily relaxed a bit in Jake's arms. "That's exactly what I needed to hear. But still, we must be cautious. Let's not underestimate Richard Thompson." While Emily and Jake plotted in their penthouse, Andrew found himself at his own emotional crossroads. The doubts sown by his father had taken root, and every interaction with Emily was now tinged with suspicion. He decided to seek comfort in the only person he had always trusted, his childhood best friend, Zach, that afternoon. Andrew and Zach met at a discreet cafe in the heart of New York. "I don't know what to think, Zach," Andrew confessed, absently, stirring his coffee. "I love Emily, but the things my father has told me, if they're true, it would mean our entire relationship has been a lie." Zach listened attentively, his face a mask of concern. "Andrew, I've known you since we were kids. You've always had good judgment. What does your instinct tell you about Emily?" Andrew sighed deeply. "My heart wants to believe in her, but my mind tells me something isn't right. The way she acted at the charity event, how she treats people when she thinks no one is watching. She's not the woman I fell in love with." What Andrew didn't know was that, at a nearby table, hidden behind a newspaper, Tyler listened to every word. Andrew's unknown half-brother had been closely following the events, waiting for the perfect moment to make his entrance. "Soon, brother," Tyler murmured to himself, "soon you'll know the truth about your perfect family." Meanwhile, in the offices of Thompson Enterprises, Frank was playing his own dangerous game. Sitting in his luxurious office, he maintained two simultaneous conversations on his phone, one with Jake, providing him with privileged information, and another with a mysterious contact. "Yes, everything is going according to plan," Frank wrote to his unknown contact. "The Thompson family is about to implode. When the dust settles, we'll be in a position to take control of everything." Richard, unaware of the plot weaving around him, focused on his own investigation. That night, reviewing the reports provided by Henry, he made a shocking discovery. "Are you sure about this?" asked Richard. His voice trembling for the first time in years, Henry nodded solemnly. "Yes, sir. We've verified the information several times. Emily Carter is not who she claims to be. Her real name is Amanda Baker, and she has connections to—" Before Henry could finish, the study door burst open. Andrew entered, his face a mask of fury and pain. "Is it true?" demanded Andrew, holding his phone. "Is what this message says true?" Richard stood up, alarmed. "Andrew, what are you talking about? What message?" Andrew showed the screen to his father. It was a message from an unknown number with a series of attached photos. The images showed Emily in compromising situations with Jake, along with documents detailing an elaborate plan to infiltrate the Thompson family. "My son," Richard began, his heart breaking at the pain in Andrew's eyes. But Andrew didn't let him finish. Did you know Emily was cheating on me? That it was all part of a plan?" Richard tried to approach his son, but Andrew stepped back. "I was investigating, Andrew. I wanted to be sure before—" "Before what?" Andrew shouted. "Before telling me that the woman I love is a liar, that my whole life is a farce?" At that moment, another figure appeared in the study doorway. It was Tyler, his presence causing both Richard and Andrew to catch their breath. "How touching," said Tyler with a sardonic smile. "A family reunion. Too bad I wasn't invited, brother." The silence that followed was deafening. Richard, pale as a ghost, looked at Tyler as if he had seen a spectre from the past. Andrew, confused and overwhelmed, alternated his gaze between his father and this stranger, who had called him brother. "Who are you?" Andrew finally managed to ask. Tyler entered the room, his presence filling the space with palpable tension. "I'm the son your father never told you he had, the heir who was denied and forgotten, and I've come to claim what's rightfully mine." Richard, regaining some of his composure, stepped forward. "Tyler, save your explanations, father," Tyler interrupted with venom in his voice. "I've waited years for this moment, and now, with your perfect family crumbling, it's the perfect time for the truth to come to light." Andrew, feeling the world spinning around him, leaned against the wall. In a matter of minutes, everything he believed he knew about his life, his family, and his love had been shattered. Outside the mansion, unaware of the drama unfolding inside, Emily approached in her car, determined to talk to Andrew and dispel any doubts he might have. What she didn't know was that she was about to enter a family storm that threatened to destroy not only her plans, but the Thompson empire in its entirety. The New York night, normally full of lights and promises, now seemed dark and threatening. Long-buried secrets were coming to the surface, and no one was prepared for the consequences they would bring. Richard Thompson's study, normally a sanctuary of calm and reflection, had become the epicenter of an emotional storm. Andrew, still leaning against the wall, looked alternately at his father and this newcomer, Tyler, who claimed to be his brother. "Explain yourself," Andrew demanded, his voice trembling with rage and confusion. "How is it possible that I have a brother and never knew about it?" Richard, for the first time in his life, seemed small and vulnerable. He sat heavily in his leather armchair, running a hand over his tired face. "It was a long time ago," Richard began, his voice barely a whisper. "Before I met your mother, I had a relationship with a young woman named Sarah. She was the daughter of one of our employees. We fell in love, but you abandoned her when you discovered she was pregnant," Tyler interrupted, his voice laden with bitterness. "You left her alone to raise a child, while you built your empire and formed your perfect family." Andrew looked at his father, horrified. "Is that true, Dad? Did you abandon your own son?" Richard shook his head, tears forming in his eyes. "It's not that simple. I didn't know Sarah was pregnant when we broke up. When I found out years later, I tried to do the right thing. I offered financial support, but Sarah refused. She said she didn't want anything from me." Tyler let out a bitter laugh. "Financial support? Is that all a son means to you? A monthly check?" As the tension in the room reached its peak, the door opened once again. Emily entered, stopping short as she sensed the charged atmosphere. "Andrew, what's going on here?" she asked, her eyes moving from one face to another. Andrew turned to her, his eyes full of pain and betrayal. "Why don't you tell us, Emily, or should I say Amanda?" The color drained from Emily's face. "What? I don't know what you're talking about." "Enough lies," Andrew growled, showing her the photos on his phone. "I know everything about you and Jake, about your plan to infiltrate our family. How could you?" Emily, seeing her facade crumbling, decided to change tactics. Her expression changed from shock to cold determination. "You want the truth, Andrew? Fine. Yes, my real name is Amanda, and yes, I had a plan, but it's not what you think." "Enlighten us," said Richard, his voice regaining some of its usual authority. Amanda took a deep breath. "I'm the daughter of the original Sarah, the woman you abandoned, Richard. My mother died years ago, but before she died, she told me the whole story. How you left her, how you refused to acknowledge your own son. I came here seeking justice, not just for myself, but for my brother." All eyes turned to Tyler, who seemed as surprised as the rest. "Sister?" Tyler muttered, confusion evident on his face. Amanda nodded. "Yes, Tyler, we're siblings. I came here to help you claim what's rightfully yours, to make the Thompsons pay for what they did to our mother." The revelation fell like a bomb in the room. Andrew collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the lies and secrets surrounding him. Richard seemed to have aged 10 years in a matter of minutes. "But what about Jake?" Andrew finally managed to ask, his voice barely audible. Amanda had the decency to look ashamed. "Jake is complicated. He helped me with the plan, but things got out of control. I developed real feelings for you, Andrew. I didn't expect that to happen." Tyler, recovering from the initial surprise, stepped forward. "So all of this was to help me?" Amanda nodded. "Partly. I also wanted the Thompsons to feel the pain our mother felt, to know what it's like to be lied to and betrayed." Richard slowly stood up, his face a mask of remorse and determination. "I've made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to correct them. Tyler, Amanda, you're my children, just as much as Andrew. And it's time for this family to come together and face the truth, no matter how painful it may be." Just when it seemed things couldn't get any more complicated, Richard's phone rang. It was Henry, his head of security. "Sir," Henry said, his voice urgent, "we have a problem. Frank has called an emergency board meeting. He's making a move to take control of the company." Richard closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. "I understand, Henry. I'll be there as soon as possible." Hanging up the phone, Richard looked at his fractured family. "The company is in danger. Frank is trying to take it away from us. I know we all have a lot to process, a lot to talk about, but right now I need us to be united. Can I count on you?" There was a moment of tense silence. Andrew, Tyler, and Amanda exchanged glances, years of secrets, lies, and pain floating between them. Finally, Andrew spoke. "I don't trust any of you right now, but Thompson Enterprises is our family's legacy. Whatever that family is now, I won't let Frank destroy it." Tyler nodded slowly. "I've waited years to be recognized as a Thompson. I won't allow an upstart to take it away from us now." Amanda hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. "I came here seeking justice. Maybe this is the way to obtain it." Richard looked at his children, a mixture of pride and remorse in his eyes. "Then let's go. It's time for the Thompson family to stand united in the face of adversity. As they left the study, each carrying the weight of the night's revelations, no one noticed the small blinking light under Richard's desk. A listening device, strategically placed by Frank weeks ago, had captured every word of the dramatic family confrontation. The headquarters of Thompson Enterprises shone like a beacon in the New York night, its lights on despite the late hour. In the boardroom on the top floor, Frank paced with a smile of satisfaction on his face. The board members, summoned for an emergency meeting, murmured among themselves, speculating about the reason for this unusual gathering. "Gentlemen," Frank began, his voice brimming with false concern, "I've gathered you tonight because our dear company is in danger. Richard Thompson, the man we've all admired for years, has been hiding secrets that threaten the stability and reputation of our company." The murmurs intensified. Frank continued, savoring every word. "Thanks to reliable sources, I've discovered that Richard has an illegitimate son, the result of an extramarital affair. But that's not all. His son, Andrew, the supposed heir, has been deceived by an impostor who infiltrated the family with the sole purpose of destroying it. Gentlemen, can we trust a man who can't manage his own house to run our business empire?" Just as Frank was about to propose a motion to remove Richard, the boardroom doors burst open. Richard entered, closely followed by Andrew, Tyler, and Emily Amanda. "I'm afraid, Frank," Richard said firmly, "that your sources aren't as reliable as you think." The room fell. Silent, all eyes fixed on the Thompson patriarch and his unusual entourage, Richard advanced to the head of the table, his presence filling the room. "Gentlemen of the board, it's true that I've made mistakes in my past, mistakes that I've kept secret for too long. But today I'm here to face them and correct them." Turning to Tyler, Richard continued, "This is my son, Tyler, the result of a relationship from my youth. A son I didn't acknowledge at the time, but who I now embrace as part of my family and this company." The board members exchanged looks of astonishment. Frank, momentarily disconcerted, tried to regain control. "What about her?" he said, pointing to Emily Amanda. "Will you deny that she's an impostor who has infiltrated your family?" Emily Amanda stepped forward, her face a mixture of determination and remorse. "My name is Amanda, and yes, I infiltrated the Thompson family, but not with the intention of destroying it, but to seek justice for my mother and my brother." "Brother?" muttered one of the board members, confused. "Yes," Tyler intervened. "Amanda is my sister. We're both children of the woman Richard left behind so many years ago. We came seeking what we believed belonged to us, but we found something more valuable, the truth and the opportunity to heal old wounds." Andrew, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "Gentlemen, our family has been shaken to its foundations tonight. We've discovered painful truths and faced lies that have divided us, but we're here, united, because we understand that what's at stake is bigger than our personal conflicts." Richard nodded, placing a hand on each of his children's shoulders. "Thompson Enterprises isn't just a company, it's the legacy of generations, built with the sweat and dedication of thousands of loyal employees. We won't allow personal ambitions or old grudges to destroy it." Frank, seeing his plan crumbling, made one last desperate attempt. "This is ridiculous. How can you trust a man who has lied for years, a family so dysfunctional?" It was then that Henry, the head of security, entered the room. In his hands he carried a folder. "Gentlemen," said Henry, "I believe you'll be interested in this." He opened the folder and began distributing documents. "This is evidence of Frank's illicit activities within the company. Embezzlement, bribes even, evidence that he's been selling corporate secrets to our competitors." Frank's face paled. The board members examined the documents with growing indignation. Richard addressed the board once more. "Gentlemen, I've made mistakes in my personal life, it's true, but I've never betrayed the trust you've placed in me to run this company. I ask that you allow me to correct my mistakes and lead Thompson Enterprises towards a stronger and more transparent future with the help of all my children." There was a moment of tense silence as the board deliberated in whispers. Finally, the most senior member stood up. "Richard, You've demonstrated tonight an integrity that many in your position wouldn't have had. Facing your mistakes and uniting your family in a moment of crisis. That's the kind of leadership this company needs. You have our support. One by one, the other board members nodded in agreement. Frank, seeing his defeat, tried to sneak towards the door, but Henry and 2 security guards blocked his path. "Frank," said Richard, his voice heavy with disappointment, "you're relieved of your duties at Thompson Enterprises. The police will want to talk to you about your illegal activities." As Frank was escorted out of the room, Richard turned to his family. Andrew, Tyler, and Emily Amanda stood together, united for the first time not by secrets and lies, but by the truth. "We have a lot to talk about," Richard said softly. "Many wounds to heal, but tonight, we've taken the first step. Together, we'll rebuild not just this company, but our family." As they left the boardroom, dawn was beginning to break over the New York skyline. It was a new day for the Thompsons, full of challenges, but also of hope. What none of them knew was that, in a luxurious penthouse across town, Jake was watching the breaking news about the scandal at Thompson Enterprises. His face contorted into a grimace of fury as he saw Emily Amanda alongside the Thompson family. "So you've decided to betray me, Amanda," he muttered to himself. "But this isn't over. Not while I have something to say about it." Jake took his phone and dialed a number. After a few seconds, a gruff voice answered. "It's time," said Jake. "Put Plan B into motion. The Thompsons think they've won, but they don't know what's coming for them." As he hung up, a sinister smile spread across his face. The battle for the Thompson empire was just beginning. The days following the dramatic board meeting were a whirlwind of activity for the Thompson family. Richard, determined to fulfill his promise of transparency, worked tirelessly to restructure the company and repair the damage caused by Frank's machinations. Andrew, Tyler, and Emily Amanda, for their part, navigated the turbulent waters of their new family reality. One afternoon, as Richard reviewed documents in his study, Andrew entered, his face a mask of emotional conflict. "Father," Andrew began, his voice tense, "I need to know the truth. The whole truth about Tyler, about Amanda, about everything." Richard sighed deeply, setting the papers aside. "Sit down, son. It's time you knew the whole story." As Andrew took a seat, Richard began his tale. 30 years ago, I was an ambitious young man, determined to build an empire. I met Sarah, Tyler's mother, in one of our factories. She was beautiful, intelligent, and shared my vision for a better future. We fell in love, but my family, your grandfather, didn't approve of the relationship. They pressured me to leave her, threatening to disinherit me if I didn't. Richard paused, remorse evident on his face. "I was a coward. I chose ambition over love. I left Sarah without knowing she was pregnant. When I found out years later, I tried to do the right thing. I offered support, money, recognition for Tyler. But Sarah, hurt and proud, rejected it all." Andrew listened in silence, his mind processing this new image of his father. "And Amanda's mother?" Andrew asked. "That's another painful part of the story," Richard continued. "Sarah's younger sister, Lisa, also worked at the factory. After I left Sarah, Lisa approached me. I was vulnerable, remorseful. I made another mistake. Our relationship was brief, but it resulted in the birth of young Amanda." Andrew stood up, unable to contain his agitation. "So, not only did you abandon your son, but you also had an affair with his mother's sister. Father, how could you?" Richard lowered his head, shame evident in every line of his face. "There's no excuse for my actions, Andrew. I've lived with this remorse for decades. When I met your mother, I swore I'd be a better man, a better father, but my past mistakes never stopped haunting me." As father and son continued their conversation, in another part of the mansion, Tyler and Emily Amanda were having their own heated discussion. "Why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning?" Tyler demanded. "I'm your brother. We could have faced this together." Emily Amanda, with tears in her eyes, replied, "I was afraid, Tyler, afraid that you'd reject me, that you wouldn't believe my story. Our mother, your mother, made me promise on her deathbed that I'd make the Thompsons pay. But when I met Andrew, when I saw the kindness in him, everything got complicated. Tyler approached his sister, taking her hands in his. We're not alone anymore, Amanda. We have a family now, as complicated as it may be, but I need to know what role does Jake play in all of this? Amanda's face darkened. Jake, he was the one who helped me plan all of this, but his motives were never pure. He wants the money, the power, and I fear he won't stop at nothing to get it. As the siblings continued their conversation, neither of them noticed the figure watching them from the shadows of the garden. Jake, with an expression of cold determination, took out his phone and dialed a number. They're all gathered, he whispered into the phone. It's time to put the next phase of the plan into motion. In the study, Richard and Andrew were interrupted by Henry's hasty arrival. Sir, said Henry, his voice urgent, we've discovered something alarming. It seems Frank wasn't acting alone. There's evidence of a larger conspiracy to take control of Thompson Enterprises. Richard stood up, alarmed. What kind of evidence? Henry extended a file. Suspicious transactions, encrypted communications, and this. He pulled out a photograph showing Jake meeting with several sinister-looking men. Andrew took the photograph, his face paling. That's Jake, Amanda's friend father. I think we've underestimated the magnitude of this conspiracy. Richard nodded gravely. Gather everyone in the main hall. It's time we face this threat as a family. As the Thompson family prepared for another shocking revelation on the streets of New York, a solitary figure watched the mansion from a distance. It was an older woman, her face marked by years of pain and resentment. Sarah, Tyler's mother, had returned. Oh, Richard, she murmured to herself, you thought you could bury the past. But some secrets are destined to come to light, no matter how hard you try to hide them. Night fell over New York, and with it, the promise of more revelations, betrayals, and perhaps redemption. The main hall of the Thompson mansion, with its luxurious tapestries and crystal chandeliers, had become the stage for another tense family meeting. Richard, Andrew, Tyler, and Amanda sat around a mahogany table, their faces reflecting a mixture of anxiety and determination. Henry, standing next to Richard, began to present his findings. We've uncovered a network of conspirators that extends beyond Frank. It appears there are foreign interests involved, all pointing to one thing: total control of Thompson Enterprises and its strategic assets. Richard frowned, his mind working quickly. What role does Jake play in all of this? Henry spread several photographs on the table. Jake seems to be the link between the conspirators and, well, our family. He's been in contact with several suspicious individuals, including some known corporate rivals. Amanda put a hand to her mouth, her eyes filled with horror. I can't believe it. Jake assured me that all of this was for justice, to recover what belonged to us. Tyler put a hand on his sister's shoulder. Amanda, I think it's time you tell us everything about your relationship with Jake. We can't afford any more secrets. Amanda nodded, taking a deep breath. I met Jake 2 years ago. He knew who I was, who my mother was. He convinced me that the Thompsons had stolen our future, and that we had the right to claim what was ours. He helped me create the Emily identity, to infiltrate Andrew's life. Andrew, who had remained silent until now, spoke with a tense voice. So it was, all a lie? Every moment we shared? Amanda looked at him, her eyes full of tears. No, Andrew. That's the cruel irony of all this. I truly fell in love, and that love made me question the entire plan, everything I thought I knew. Richard leaned forward, his face a mask of concern. Amanda, do you have any idea what Jake's next moves might be? Before Amanda could respond, the sound of breaking glass filled the room. A rock rapped in. Paper had been thrown through the window. Tyler, being the closest, picked it up and unwrapped the message. His face paled as he read aloud. The past always returns, Richard. It's time you pay for your sins. A sepulchral silence fell over the room. It was Richard who finally broke it, his voice barely a whisper. "Sarah." "Sarah?" asked Andrew, confused. "But she's here." Richard shook his head, his face a mask of shock and remorse. "No, son, the other Sarah, Tyler's mother." At that moment, the doors of the hall burst open. An older woman entered, her posture erect despite the years, her eyes burning with a mixture of pain and determination. Behind her, to everyone's shock, was Jake. "Hello, Richard," said the woman, her voice laden with emotions contained for decades. "It's been a long time." Tyler stood up, his eyes fixed on the newcomer. "Mother?" Sarah Sr. smiled, sadly at her son. "Yes, Tyler. I've come to claim what's rightfully ours." Richard slowly rose, his face a mixture of emotions. "Sarah, Spare me your excuses, Richard," Sarah interrupted. "For years I've watched you build your empire on the ruins of the promises you made to me. I've watched our son grow up without the father he deserved. And now finally it's time for the truth to come to light." Jake stepped forward, a malicious smile on his face. "Surprise, Thompson family. Did you think you could bury the past so easily?" Amanda stood up, confronting Jake. "How could you? You lied to me. You used us all." Jake shrugged dismissively. "We all use someone, dear. I'm just better at it." Richard, regaining some of his composure, took a step towards Sarah Sr. "Sarah, I know I've failed you in every possible way, but please let us try to resolve this as a family, for the sake of our children." Sarah looked around, her eyes stopping on Tyler, on young Amanda, on Andrew. For a moment her resolve seemed to falter, but Jake, sensing he might lose his advantage, intervened. "Don't let yourself be fooled, Sarah. Remember why we're here. It's time for the Thompsons to pay for everything they've taken from us." The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone present felt the weight of decades of secrets, lies, and unresolved pain. Loyalties were strained, long-buried truths were coming to the surface, and the future of the Thompson family hung by a thread. It was then that Henry, always alert, noticed a suspicious movement outside the window. "Look out!" he shouted, just as the sound of gunshots broke the night. Chaos erupted in the hall. Richard lunged to protect Sarah Sr., while Tyler and Andrew covered young Amanda. Jake, taking advantage of the confusion, tried to sneak away, but Henry intercepted him, subduing him with a lock. When the dust settled and silence reigned again, the Thompson family found themselves in a situation they never could have imagined, united against a common threat, with the past and present colliding in the most dramatic way possible. Richard, still protecting Sarah Sr. with his body, looked around at the family he never knew he had, and made a decision. "It's time," he said firmly, "for us to face this together as a family. No more secrets, no more lies. It's time for the truth, whatever the cost." As the police arrived and the Thompson mansion became an investigation scene, one thing was clear. The night was far from over, and the most shocking revelations were yet to come. Dawn found the Thompson family at the New York Police Department. The night had been long, full of interrogations and statements. Jake, handcuffed and furious, had been taken to a cell, while the rest of the family waited in a conference room. Guarded by officers, Richard, with deep under-eye circles and a wrinkled suit, looked out the window at the awakening city. Sarah Sr. sat in a corner, her face a mask of contained emotions. Tyler, Andrew, and young Amanda formed a silent group, united by shock and uncertainty. Finally, a detective entered the room. "Mr. Thompson," he said respectfully, "we've interrogated the suspect, Jake. I think you should all hear what we have to say." Richard nodded, gathering his family around the table. The detective placed a recorder in the center and pressed play. Jake's voice filled the room, laden with bitterness and defiance. "Yes, I confess to everything. You want to know the truth? Here it is. I was hired by Thompson Enterprises, rivals, to destroy the company from within. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real story began years ago when I discovered I'm Frank's illegitimate son." A collective gasp ran through the room. The detective paused the recording, allowing the revelation to sink in. "Frank never acknowledged me," Jake's voice continued. "He raised me in secret, promising me that someday I'd have my share of the Thompson empire. When I met young Amanda, I saw my opportunity. I manipulated her, used her pain and desire for justice for my own ends. The plan was simple. Destroy the Thompsons from within, take control of the company, and finally get the recognition Frank never gave me. The recording ended, leaving a heavy silence. In the room, Richard collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the betrayal. "There's more," said the detective, his face grave. "We've discovered that Frank was working with an international network of criminals. His plan was to use Thompson Enterprises as a front for large-scale illegal operations." Andrew, his voice trembling, asked, "And the shots last night?" "Mercenaries hired by Frank," the detective replied. "When he saw his plan crumbling, he ordered the elimination of everyone involved. Fortunately, we managed to intercept the order and prevent a greater tragedy." Sarah Sr., who had remained silent until now, spoke with a broken voice. "All this time, all this pain, and for what? We were pawns in a game. We didn't even understand." Richard approached her, taking her hands in his. "Sarah, I know my past actions are unforgivable, but I swear, for our son, for all our children, that I'll do whatever it takes to remedy the damage I've caused." Tyler, observing the scene with a mixture of emotions, addressed his mother. "We've all been manipulated, Mom, but now we have the chance to rewrite our story together." Young Amanda, with tears in her eyes, looked at Andrew. "I'm so sorry for lying to you. I'll understand if you can't forgive me." Andrew, after a moment of hesitation, took Amanda's hand. "The deception hurts, but the love, the true love that grew between us, that can't be a lie." Richard, seeing his family come together despite the circumstances, felt a spark of hope. He stood up, his voice regaining some of its old strength. "We've been hit, betrayed, and brought to the brink of the abyss. But we're here together. I propose that we use this crisis as an opportunity to rebuild not just our company, but our family, with transparency, with honesty, with the love that should have always been our foundation." One by one, the members of the Thompson family nodded. Even Sarah Sr., with tears in her eyes, gave a small nod. The detective, moved by the scene, intervened. "Mr. Thompson, given the nature of this conspiracy, the New York government is willing to work with you to stabilize Thompson Enterprises. It's crucial for the city's economy." Richard nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Detective. I promise that from now on, Thompson Enterprises will be an example of integrity and transparency." As the family prepared to leave the police station, facing an uncertain future but united as never before, Richard couldn't help but reflect on the long and painful road that had led them to this moment. The lies had been exposed, the secrets revealed, and although the pain was still fresh, there was a sense that for the first time in decades, the truth had paved the way for healing outside. The New York sun shone brightly, a symbol of a new beginning for the Thompsons. The storm had passed, leaving behind a devastated but fertile ground, ready for a new story, a story of redemption and love to flourish. The months following were a whirlwind of activity for the Thompson family. The mansion, once a symbol of secrets and division, became the headquarters for a family determined to heal and rebuild. Richard, with the help of Andrew and Tyler, immersed himself in the task of restructuring Thompson Enterprises. Every contract was reviewed, every employee vetted, and new policies of transparency and business ethics were implemented. Young Amanda, with her social media expertise, took charge of renovating the company's public image, sharing stories of employees and the company's charitable projects. Sarah Sr., initially reluctant, gradually integrated into the family dynamic. She spent long hours with Richard, talking about the past, unearthing old wounds to finally begin healing them. Tyler, seeing his parents rebuild their relationship, began to feel that the pieces of his identity were finally falling into place. One afternoon, as the family shared a meal in the mansion's garden, an atmosphere of cautious hope floated in the air. Richard, seated at the head of the table, observed his gathered family with a mixture of remorse and gratitude. "I never thought I'd see this day," he said, his voice laden with emotion. "All of us together as a true family." Sarah Sr., seated beside him, placed a hand on his. "It's been a long road, Richard, but perhaps everything we've been through was necessary to reach this moment. Tyler, who had been observing his parents' interaction, spoke. "Mum, Dad, there's something I've wanted to ask you. What was your relationship like before? Before everything got complicated?" Richard and Sarah exchanged a look, a spark of their old love shining in their eyes. "Your father," Sarah began with a nostalgic smile, "was the most passionate and determined man I had ever known. He had big dreams, not just for himself, but for our entire community." Richard nodded, lost in memories. "And your mother, Tyler, was the force that kept me grounded. Her compassion, her intelligence, that's what made me fall in love with her." Andrew and young Amanda listened attentively, fascinated by this vision of a past they had never known. "What went wrong then?" Andrew asked, his voice soft but filled with curiosity. Richard's face darkened. "Fear, pride. I allowed my family's expectations and my ambition to cloud my judgment. I made the mistake of believing that success and power were more important than love." Sarah Sr. squeezed Richard's hand, and I, in my pain, closed myself off. Instead of fighting for our love, I withdrew, taking Tyler with me. We both made mistakes. Young Amanda, who had been listening in silence, spoke. "But now we have the chance to do it right, don't we? To be the family we always should have been." Richard looked around at the faces of his children and the woman he had never stopped loving. "Yes, my dear Amanda, this is our second chance, and I promise we won't waste it." At that moment, Henry approached the table with an envelope in his hand. "Excuse the interruption, but this has arrived for you, Mr. Richard. It's from the Department of Justice." Richard took the envelope with trembling hands. Everyone at the table held their breath as he opened it and read its contents. Finally, he looked up, a smile of relief on his face. "It's official," he said. "All charges against our family have been dismissed. The government recognizes that we were victims of Frank and Jake's conspiracy. Thompson Enterprises has been completely exonerated." A collective sigh of relief ran through the table, followed by hugs and tears of joy. "This deserves a celebration," Tyler declared, standing up. "I propose a toast to our family, to the truth, and to a new beginning." As everyone raised their glasses, Richard added, "And to love, the love that united us, the love that separated us, and the love that has finally brought us back together." The Thompson family toasted, their glasses clinking under the New York sunset. The future, which once seemed so uncertain and threatening, now shone with promises of redemption and happiness that night. As the family retired to rest, Richard remained in the garden, contemplating the stars. Sarah Sr. joined him, wrapping her shoulders with a shawl. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. Richard looked at her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "About how fortunate I am. Despite all my mistakes, fate has given me a second chance with our children, with you." Sarah moved closer to him. "Maybe it's not fate, Richard. Maybe it's love. True love always finds its way back." As they looked into each other's eyes, decades of pain and separation vanished. Slowly, as if time had stopped, their lips met in a tender kiss, a kiss of forgiveness, of promise, of a new beginning. In the Thompson mansion, once the scene of secrets and betrayals, peace now reigned. The family that had been fragmented for so long was finally complete, united by bonds stronger than blood, the bonds of love, truth, and forgiveness. As New York slept, the Thompson family dreamed of a bright future, a future they would build together, regardless of the challenges they might face. A year had passed since that fateful night when all the secrets of the Thompson family came to light. The mansion, once a symbol of division and deception, now brimmed with life and love as it prepared for a special occasion. The garden was decorated with exotic flowers and twinkling lights. Elegantly arranged tables dotted the lawn, and an arch of white roses rose majestically in the center. It was the day of Andrew and young Amanda's wedding. In her room, Amanda looked at herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman who looked back at her. She was no longer the young woman full of resentment and plans for revenge. Now she was a woman in love, ready to begin a new chapter in her life. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Sarah Senior, radiant in a turquoise dress. "Are you ready, dear?" she asked with a warm smile. Amanda nodded, tears of happiness forming in her eyes. "I never thought this day would come after everything I did." Sarah Senior approached, taking the bride's hands in hers. "The past is the past, my girl. Today is about the future, a future that you and Andrew will build together, with love and honesty as the foundation." In another room of the mansion, Andrew adjusted his tie with Tyler by his side. "Nervous, brother?" Tyler asked with a smile. Andrew laughed softly. "Can you believe it? After everything we've been through, marrying the woman I love seems almost normal." Tyler put a hand on his brother's shoulder. "Nothing in our family is normal, Andrew, but that's what makes it special." Meanwhile, in the garden, Richard supervised the final preparations. His face, once marked by the weight of secrets, now shone with an inner peace that many noticed. Henry, ever faithful, approached him. "Everything's ready, sir. The guests are arriving." Richard nodded, his gaze lost in the distance. "Who would have thought, Henry? A year ago our family was on the brink of collapse, and now we're celebrating love." "Love always finds a way, sir," Henry replied with a wise smile. The ceremony was magical under the arch of roses. Andrew and Amanda exchanged vows of eternal love, promises not just between them, but for the entire family. Richard and Sarah Senior, seated in the front row, couldn't contain their tears of joy. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, the garden erupted in applause and cheers. Rose petals rained down on the happy couple as they walked down the aisle, their faces radiant with happiness. During the reception, Richard stood up to offer a toast. The garden fell into an expectant silence. "A year ago," he began, his voice laden with emotion, "I thought I had lost everything, my family, my legacy, my honor. But today, looking around, I realize I've gained everything we've been through, fire and storm, but we've emerged stronger, more united." He paused, looking at each member of his family. "To my beloved Sarah, thank you for giving me a second chance. To my children, Andrew, Tyler, and Amanda, thank you for teaching me the true meaning of family. And to you, Andrew, and to you, my new daughter Amanda, may your union be a symbol of what our family now represents: love, forgiveness, and hope." He raised his glass. "To Andrew and Amanda, to love that triumphs over all adversities, and to the Thompson family, may our future be filled with light and love." To the Thompson family, all the guests chorused as the party continued, with music and laughter filling the New York night air. Each member of the Thompson family reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. Tyler, dancing with a young company executive, felt for the first time in his life that he truly belonged somewhere. Sarah Senior and Richard, sitting together, hand in hand, watched their children with pride and love, the past forgiven, the future bright before them. And at the center of it all, Andrew and young Amanda danced their first dance as husband and wife, their eyes fixed on each other, their hearts beating as one. As the night progressed, the full moon rose over New York, bathing the city in its silver light. In the Thompson mansion, a family once divided by secrets and lies now celebrated their union, stronger and more loving than ever. The Thompson empire had survived its toughest test, not through power or wealth, but through love, honesty, and forgiveness. And as the party continued under the stars, everyone knew that this wasn't the end of their story, but the beginning of a new and exciting chapter. In the heart of the city, where once there had been storm and darkness, an oasis of love and hope now flourished. The Thompson family had found their true treasure, one that no wealth could buy, the unconditional love of a united family. And so, with the dawn of a new day on the horizon, the story of the Thompsons would continue, not as a saga of power and betrayal, but as a testament to the transformative power of love and truth.